everybody. It's Allison Williams here, your law firm mentor, and welcome to another episode of the Crushing Chaos with Law Firm Mentor podcast, where this week we are going to talk about the fact that you should stop the vanity networking. So what do I mean by vanity networking? Well, the best way of describing it is to think about those people who love to go out and make friends. They are the people that we refer to as the politicians. They love to shake hands and kiss babies. They just are the people of the world. And there's a great skill set that comes with being a people person who knows how to make connections, who knows how to drive engagement and get people interested in your message. But when I talk about vanity networking, I'm talking about those people that don't network with intentionality. They go into a networking opportunity as an experience of being social and making friends. And while there certainly is nothing wrong with making friends and being social, the intelligent, capable business owner should be thinking about the ways in which that particular skill set, if they have it, or if they're developing it, that particular array of skills are going to lead to business coming in the door. And that's the part of networking that I think a lot of lawyers miss out on. We think, hey, I'm just going to go out, I'm going to meet people, I'm going to have some conversations, and I'm going to hope that business comes in because people like me. And this is not that. We don't want you to be the pick-me of the legal industry or the business industry. We want you to get into the habit of going in with a plan, making the right connections, and then coming out with an expectation of business in the reasonably foreseeable future. So there are 3 strategies I want to share with you today to help you to get out of the habit of vanity networking. So the very first thing I want you to think about is that you have to go to every networking event with a plan. Now, this does not mean that you are going to plan out what you're going to talk about necessarily, or that you're going to have a map of exactly where the people are in the room, okay? We don't want you to get to the point where you are so robotic in the way that you're approaching it that the humanistic element of creating relationships gets lost. But we do want you to go with a plan. So that would normally look like deciding in advance how many people you need to speak to. And once you've decided how many people you need to speak to, actually making a plan for how long you're going to speak to them, generally speaking. You want to have some flexibility, but you want to have a plan for how many people you're going to be able to get to in the time you're going to be at the event. So if you know you're just going for an hour, it's unreasonable that you're going to speak to 10 different people and have exactly the right amount of conversations. That's a very short period of time to have conversation. And then God forbid, what if one of them is unavailable or speaking to someone else or runs to the bathroom? You would miss your window. So you want to have a small enough number of people that you can get to them and have a reasonable conversation, 5 to 10 minutes at the low end, 15 to 20 on the high end. And you want to make sure that in that time that you are covering certain points. Now, you're probably going to ask me next, what are the points? So we don't want you to actually plan out what you're going to talk about. Your goal here is to really just engage with people, right? You're going to go in with the idea of who you're going to speak to, and they're going to be within a certain category, depending on the type of event you're at. So if it's a Chamber of Commerce event, you might know that there are certain business owners that are represented in that particular venue where you're going to actually be thinking in advance about who's in the room. But you don't necessarily want to say, I'm going to talk to this business owner about X, Y, and Z, and another business owner about A, B, and C. Instead, you want to think about the topics on which you can develop a general rapport. And your goal is to make sure that you get their contact information so that the real substantive conversation that you will plan for is going to happen at some point in time in the future in a one-to-one setting, okay? So networking events are not where the actual networking happens. It is, if you think about it, the prospecting for networking. It is the first step where you're creating that initial on-ramp where people know who you are, so that when you contact them in the future and say, hey, let's get together to have a substantive conversation about how we can benefit each other's businesses, that makes sense. They know who you are and they're interested in having that conversation. All right, strategy number 2 to avoid the vanity networking is that you want to target people with purpose. Okay. Now, what I mean by that is for a lot of us, we think if I'm a lawyer, there are other lawyers who may not do the work that I do and could make referrals. And lawyers are a great source of referrals for other lawyers. But there are definitely some industries that naturally refer to each other far more often than others. For instance, I can't tell you the last time I got a referral from an asbestos litigation attorney as a family law attorney. It's not that the asbestos litigation attorney doesn't know people who could need my service, it's that they don't regularly encounter them. However, people such as mental health professionals, oftentimes, especially licensed marriage and family therapists, are often encountering people weekly, if not daily, who would need my service. That type of person is a better referral source for me. So you really have to think about who is your target demographic, who do you serve, and who are the other professionals who serve that demographic. Once you understand that, once you have an idea of who are your common clients, then you can start to have a better source. In other words, when you're creating the list of events you want to go to, you can say, yeah, I'm more likely to find people with my common clients at this type of event versus another type of event. So you really want to think about that before you just start offering yourself up to go to particular events. Not because you don't enjoy them. Some of you, extroverts, probably really enjoy those events. But your time is precious, especially as a law firm owner. You only have so many hours that you can give over to networking. You want to do it. You want to spend that time where you're most likely to get the greatest bang for your networking buck. All right. Strategy number 3. The third thing you want to think about is that you want to spend your time effectively. Now, this is not just your time at the event. It is also your time after the event. Now, what I mean by spending your time effectively is what I see a lot of lawyers do is you go in with a plan, right? You know who you're going to talk to, you know, generally what you're going to gather from them in order to be able to have that one-to-one follow-up in the future. You've gone in with a great strategy, but then it falls flat when you get back to your office. You've either taken their V card, or maybe you scanned their QR code and you got their LinkedIn information, or maybe you even got the good old-fashioned business card. But you have their information and you just kind of throw it onto your desk and say, all right, I'll get around to that later, and then you don't get around to it. So we really want to encourage you to have a staff person, if you have staff, to be the designated person every time you go to an event, to be looking out for that contact information afterward. And then you want to have a follow-up plan. That follow-up plan should include some form of connectivity, some form of engagement after the event to remind the person where they met you and who you are, right? So perhaps that communication could include your picture. So it could be by virtue of an email that has your picture on it. Or it could be that you send a letter and inside the letter you include a business card with your picture, but something to remind the person generally, hey, this is the person that you met at the event and we spoke about a certain topic. And then that follow-up needs to include an invitation to the next step. You always want to have a call to action for your potential referral sources the same way you want to with your prospects. You don't want to leave it to chance that you're going to have a great connection with someone, have a wonderful conversation, build some rapport, and get ready for that one-to-one, and just kind of hope that someone eventually gets around to inviting the other out. You want to be the person that's proactively taking the bull by the horns and inviting that prospect or that prospective referral relationship partner out for some type of contact, right? That, and by out, by the way, I don't mean you don't necessarily have to go out. You can invite them to a Zoom meeting. You can invite them to coffee. You could just stop by their office, right? But you want to have a planned event where you two are going to be intentional about discussing business. All right, everyone. I'm Allison Williams, your law firm mentor. You've been listening to another episode of the Crushing Chaos with Law Firm Mentor podcast. I'll see you on our next episode.